All right, welcome to iView Markets. And today we're going to talk about the list page and how it can help you identify both what's working in terms of sectors and the best names in those sectors that you should be looking for. All right, so what you want to do is obviously click on the list section. And the first thing is you'll notice up here this first default page are the strongest relative strength stocks within the S&P 500. If you're not familiar with relative strength, please see the momentum section video. It will explain what relative strength is. Essentially, it's a mixture of the greatest return on a 6-month and a 12-month look back. And so, it's a very common way to look at momentum, relative strength. But let's not get off subject here, and let's just look at the upper left side, which is the sectors. Now, what we can see here are the strongest stocks represented by each sector. So we can see the service sector has the strongest names in it by 40% of this list. We could see technology is 5%, industrial goods is 20%, consumer goods 15%, and materials we could see is 20%. Now, you can also see the industry breakdown as well. On the far right, what we can see here is the greatest increase or decrease in momentum over the last week or two. Now, so we can see on this list AZO, BA, Caterpillar. These have been seeing the greatest momentum on this list. And what we could do is we could scroll down, and what we want to look for is a lot of these names will be overbought and have a very high RSI. That's okay. Just be aware that they could be overbought. What we want to see is an increasing MACD. MACD is an okay tool to help us evaluate the short-term momentum. Anything longer-term trend following, it's not a good tool or indicator to use. But that's for another discussion. But what we want to see here is an increase in the MACD to allow us to know if the short-term momentum is favorable. Okay, so that's the first thing I use this list for. The second thing is if I'm looking for something that is seeing some new strength and showing some rapidly improving momentum, I want to click on the link that's the strongest 20 but showing the greatest RSI increase. So I'm going to click on that, which I did. And again, healthcare is showing the greatest increase in RSI, which is the relative strength index, different than relative strength itself. And so we can look at some of these names, and we can also see ISRG is showing the greatest momentum increase on this list. So we could scroll through here and we can look for something that's also increasing in the MACD. Okay, so Gilead looks very interesting. So now Gilead has a 8 out of 10. That's the first check. That looks good. The second check is the short-term momentum with the MACD. Looks like it's increasing. That's positive. And that's all I really want to do right now. And then I want to then take a look at the chart. And the first thing I'm going to do is the momentum looks really nice in terms of the technical trend score. It's increasing and it looks very strong. So that's the first check that we're going to check off the box. Momentum looks good. Now a little bit shorter term, again, we like to default to the Renko with the volatility stop, which has broken above the volatility stop. Now long term, going back almost 2 to 3 years, the chart doesn't look great. As we can see, it's been making lower highs. So you can just real quickly with the Renko chart see that. I mean, if we could pop up above this longer term downtrend, that might be a very interesting buy signal. So you could keep an eye on that. But overall, the momentum is looking pretty good. All right. Now, another name that was on the list has not yet moved back above its volatility stop. So I would probably wait until we can get a closing bar above that. And that is probably about 20 cents away. But what I do like is the fact that this has been for about 10 days a 3 score and has jumped significantly to a 6. So anything that's been consolidating and has not moved in a week or two and has had a big jump, those are interesting names to watch. Now let's go back to that list again. Now this we were talking about on the last page, the RSI, the greatest increase in RSI. So now I want to take a look at a little bit of different momentum, and that's the MACD. Again, MACD is not good for longer term trend following. It's just good for and helping to look at short term momentum. And so we could see here PCLN, Amazon, again, a lot of the similar names, greatest increase in momentum here. We can look at, in terms of sectors, what's increasing the most. And we can come down here and then look for some additional names, what might be working. And you could click on here to see some of its peers and some news. So that is it for that section. Now, I want to point out something that could be very helpful. This is good for sector rotation because it's allowing you to see what's moving much more quickly on the individual stock level than the ETF level. So if you see a sector ETF that you want to buy, this could potentially be a good entry into that as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.